Hi folks, welcome back. Thank you for watching. Please do hit subscribe if you haven't done so yet. It really does help when you do that. So today folks, this video is only really intended to be a bit of fun. Because as many of you will know, or anyone who watches this channel regularly will definitely know, I'm very much in the kind of vintage guitar camp. Strats, Teles, Les Pauls, 335s, things like that. But rewind to when I was in my late teens, I was hugely into the kind of virtuoso shred guitarists. Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Yngwie, Paul Gilbert, Marty Friedman, Jason Becker, all those sorts of guys. I was hugely into that when I was 17, 18. So the guitar I always wanted was an Ibanez Jem, because Steve Vai was probably my favourite of the bunch. But back then at least, Ibanez didn't make a left-handed Jem. You just couldn't get them. I think they'd done a run of a couple of them back in like the mid-90s or something, but they just didn't make a left-handed Jem. But I always wanted one. I had a sort of Ibanez Super-Strat thing, but I always kind of wanted the Jem. So for my 18th birthday, my entire family clubbed together and basically got this built for me. So this was built by the Sims Custom Shop over, I think it's near Kent in the UK. So of course I spec'd it up to be pretty much the same as Steve Vai's bad Horsie guitar. If anyone's familiar with Steve Vai, his kind of mirrored thing. Yes, it's got the lights in it, it's got the laser in the headstock, it is, you know, so over the top, it's unreal. It's a guitar for a younger and more confident man, let's put it that way. So, aged 18, I finally got, as close to an Ibanez Jem as I could. And to be honest, never really bonded with it, because it was around that time I started to get much more into the sort of classic rock side of things. I realised I was much more of a rhythm player than a lead player. And, everything about this guitar is kind of the opposite to what I'm into, especially nowadays. So if you compare this to something like a Fender Telecaster, a Tele is just strings through the body, bolted on, nothing moves. If something goes out of tune, doesn't matter, the rest of the strings stay in tune. It is just absolutely rock solid. You can hit it really hard and it requires almost no maintenance. In comparison, the Jem is kind of like a Formula One car. Everything is finely balanced. If a string goes out of tune, they all go out of tune. The Floyd Rose is floating. You've got the locking nut at the top. It just requires a lot of maintenance and upkeep. And there's a lot of things about this guitar that have really annoyed me over the years. So the nut sits really high off the fretboard, so the gap between the low E string especially and the frets is really high. And yes, you can drop it down, but then the string fouls out on the frets. It's a nightmare to set up. All the Allen bolts are completely different sizes, and I think a lot of them are like old imperial sizes rather than metric, so I never have the right tools for it. It's got the Fernandes Sustainer in here, which, to be honest, is all I really use this guitar for nowadays. If I ever want a kind of E-bow type effect on a song, that kind of sustained with a sort of whammy bar or whatever, that's generally what I use it for. But aside from that, it is just... It also doesn't suit my thick strings. I think this type of guitar, especially this one, you need a set of 10s on it at most, I think. I've got 12 through 64 in standard, and it just doesn't like it. So there's a lot of things that I just don't get on with. It has right-handed pots, but they're wired in reverse, so the knobs work properly for a standard left-handed guitar, but the taper's the wrong way round, so the tone's pretty much an on-off switch. I can't get to them to rewire them because the huge circuit board for the Sustainer is on top of it. The output jack is wobbly, but I don't have the right size spanner to do it up, so I have to kind of play it with the jack lead like resting on my leg. So when I play it today, I dare say there'll be a few times where it kind of cuts out and I'm waggling the lead to try and get it to work. It's just not an instrument that I particularly bond with. And that's not to say that it's a bad instrument at all. A lot of people love these type of guitars, and really it's their entire thing, playing something like this. But it's just not for me. It's the equivalent to giving a shred guy a jazz box. It's just not the right guitar for the job. But over the years, I've toyed with selling this guitar, but I've held off doing it for two reasons. Firstly, my granddad was the kind of driving force behind getting this guitar built. He's no longer with us. So there is a bit of a sentimental thing there. But also I've got no idea what it's worth, because it's not a genuine Ibanez, so that will knock value off. But it has the mirrored top, it's got the Sustainer, the lights, the laser, the everything. So I just really don't know. So I've hung on to it. And it does come in handy for recording sometimes. If you want a really kind of high gain sound, it has a huge amount of low end in it, this guitar. So today, I dare say it'll be blowing speakers up on your end. But the pickups in here are a Damasio Evolution in the bridge, the kind of the original Steve Vai pickup. The middle pickup is a Damasio, I've got no idea what it is. And of course the Sustainer in the neck, which has two settings. It either gives you kind of infinite sustain of a note, or if you flip the second switch, it gives you like a harmonic several above that to make it really squeal. But I wanted to show it off today because it's not going to be a comfortable experience for me making this video, because it is just such an alien instrument for what I usually play. But I'm going to try and get a few interesting sounds out of it. So I'm going into a kind of Marshall style amp. I've got my pedals on the floor here, so I'm going to kick a few of those on and just see what noises I can coax out of this thing, because it's really good for some things. It's just not really me. But it's nice to throw yourself out of your comfort zone sometimes and just kind of see what comes out. It's one of those instruments, especially when you have the Sustainer on, you just kind of have to hold it for a second and just see what the guitar does and let that influence your next move. It's kind of like it plays itself to a certain extent with the infinite sustain, and especially when it's soaked in delay or something, you get sudden harmonics that you're not expecting and have to react to it. It's kind of fun to play. It's definitely fun to throw yourself out of your comfort zone every now and again. So this is going to be interesting. I can't say it's going to be my best playing to date, but let's see how this goes. So without further ado, folks, let's get jamming. there we are, folks. Now, please do comment underneath, let me know what you think of this guitar. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you just heard. But that was not a comfortable experience for me. That was so far removed from the sort of playing I normally do. It was really, really difficult. But that said, it can be super, super inspiring. So as I was saying at the start, the Sustainer sound soaked in delay and creating some kind of ethereal, ghosty type lines. It was really nice playing around with that, and you can hit the low E and use that as a kind of, root note, and then play different modes on top of it and things like that. Can be really, really nice. And as I said at the start as well, it is so weighty, this guitar. For rhythm parts, for heavy rock songs, you actually can't beat it. No vintage guitar will give you what this guitar gives. It's super weighty, super compressed, and it just sits in the track really nicely. So playing the Revival Drive today, it was really punching me in the chest in a really nice way. But as I said, please do let me know your thoughts, folks. Do you love Jems? Is it what you're all about? Are you in the vintage guitar camp like I am? Would you play something like this if you could get your hands on one? I would love to hear your thoughts on what you just heard. But for now, folks, thank you ever so much for watching. Please do hit subscribe if you haven't done so. It really does make a huge difference when you do that. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.